Oh, perfect. Cool. Welcome to the live stream. First time I've done this. I have no idea if this is even going to work, so we're going to try and test it out and see how how it pans out. But ultimately, what I really want to do today is discuss the Kia Stinger, which has been pretty wild. So welcome to. Looks like everything's working, so I'm going to go ahead and just get into it. One of the things that I've found really crazy lately is all of the cars that we see coming out for 2018. The vast majority of them are, you know, let's be honest, they're kind of boring. I haven't really seen a whole lot that excites me. Now, that doesn't mean there's nothing out there, but for the most part, it seems like the cool stuff is already out. You know, Ford's doing some really neat stuff. Ford is doing, you know, they got the Raptor, the GT350. The new Raptor is genuinely awesome. And the GT350, despite, I know they had a few issues with like oil filters or something like that, but overall, fantastic, phenomenal car. You know, they're doing the Focus STs, the Fiesta STs, the Focus RS, which I've been fairly vocal about in the past. I don't think is quite as big of a deal as Ford made it to be, but is definitely a very good car. I've kind of heard things on and off about the Stinger, but I will tell you that it's way cooler than I thought it was going to be. It looks like most of the stuff coming out about it was kind of, yeah, you know, it's really neat. It's a grand touring design, you know, whatever the hell that means. For like really enthusiastic car people, you probably know what that is. But the basic gist of a grand touring vehicle is it's kind of like a four-door hatchback almost. Like if you think of like the X6 from BMW, they have like the big long sloping back that goes all the way back. There's not really a trunk. It's more like a hatch in the rear. So it's pretty neat, actually. It's kind of a cool design. It doesn't slope down to a flat trunk. It actually goes pretty much all the way down, and the trunk is the back hatch. So it's, for those of you that are like drifting people, right, think a S13 hatchback, but with four doors. It's kind of a neat design, but it seems to be only done by a handful of companies right now. Kia is obviously doing it with the Stinger, and then you have Porsche, the Panamera, and Audi has the A5 Sportback, or whatever it is, and then the A7 as well. So yeah, the A5 Sportback and the A7. BMW's doing a couple of them. You know, they have the 340i xDrive Gran Turismo. They've actually got the 540i, which is something I want to compare it to. That's technically a sedan and not a Gran Turismo. And then they've got the 640i Gran Turismo as well. So you have a handful of things that are in that realm, so to speak. And what I've found is that I think people on most of the posts I've made recently have commented and said, you know, this is a great car, but man, that price is crazy expensive. And I'm here to tell you, it's really not. If you actually compare to what other companies are doing, you're not really going to see anything for that sort of price. So they haven't officially released pricing yet, as far as I know. We were just down at SEMA. I got called and was fortunate enough to go down and work SEMA for Kia at the Stinger launch, which was really awesome. So they had this big setup out front, or I guess right across from the main entrance at the Las Vegas Convention Center at what they called the Gold Lot. And they had Stinger stuff everywhere. They brought in a bunch of cars. And it was basically just a giant promo event. So you could come out and do an autocross, excuse me, you could do an autocross portion, and you could also do a drift ride along. So I was kind of hoping I would get to do that, you know, as you guys know, that's my background, but unfortunately I didn't get to. What they did was they hired Formula Drift to come in and run the drift portion, and they brought in a bunch of drivers. They brought in like Matt Field and Alec Honadell, Dayoshi Hara, Michael Essa, Robbie Nishida was there, Ryan Lontaine drove for a little bit, Matt Powers. It was pretty cool. They brought in a bunch of different drivers, and which was awesome because I hadn't seen a lot of those guys in a while, so it was good to catch up with like Essa and Powers. And but it was pretty neat. And they just did once an hour. They do a big ride along, and they take about 30 people through this little course and just play around with the Stingers. They were admittedly slightly modified Stingers. They had a rear e-brake installed, and they'd like disconnected the brake switch so that the car didn't, when you're on throttle and braking, trying to left foot brake, it wasn't going to kill the throttle. And they disabled the stability control and whatnot as well. And they had an exhaust. So I don't think the exhaust really would have given it much more power. It just made it sound more aggressive, maybe a hair more power, but certainly not a whole lot. But anyway, they were very lightly modified. As far as the cars themselves, they were pretty much Stingers. So other than the drift ride along, then you had the autocross portion, which is where I was working. And you could either jump in and drive one of the cars, which I would say is what most people did, and every now and then someone would come up who'd either been drinking and didn't pass the breathalyzer test or just didn't want to drive, and could ride around with one of us, the other pro drivers, and we would just take them around the course. So what we had was a 0 to 60 acceleration zone, followed by a braking zone, and then an autocross area where you just kind of got to feel how nimble the car was. I don't know how heavy the car is. My guess is somewhere in the 4,000 pound range. And it feels like at least 1,000 pounds lighter than that. It handles really, really well. So a Gran Turismo car is basically designed to be kind of a balance of everything. So it's a beautiful car, right? They're supposed to be gorgeous. They're supposed to be comfortable. It's also supposed to have good handling. It's supposed to have good power. Just supposed to be kind of an all-around fun car to drive, and sporty and powerful, but comfortable, and performs well kind of in every area. I'll just tell you right out, they really delivered. The Stinger is actually a pretty badass little car, I'm not going to lie. Now, that being said, it's, I haven't driven, I've driven my fair share of BMWs and Audis, but I've never driven a Panamera. So I can't say anything as far as that goes. But what I can tell you is that as far as handling characteristics goes, it feels eerily similar to what you would expect from an Audi or a BMW, which I consider to be a really good thing. What's funny to me is how many people go like, oh, well, it's a Kia, whatever. It's, who cares? Like, yeah, that's true. And actually, by Kia's own admission, they actually have said, well, we know that people kind of use this as a punchline sometimes, right? Like, we know that we're not BMW, we're not Audi, right? We're not all these other companies, Mercedes and Porsche that have all these great heritages. What they have acknowledged is that most of their cars for a long time were pretty lackluster and weren't really anything special, and so they knew they wanted to do something legitimately good, and so they built this Stinger. So to give you an idea of like how legitimate the car really is, Kia brought over a guy named Peter Schreier, and for those of you that don't know, Peter Schreier is a designer of vehicles, like very aesthetic type of person. I got some notes down here about him. The guy just has like the most unbelievable resume for companies he worked for. But he was the lead designer, I think, on the Audi TT. He was responsible for the Audi A4. He worked for Audi for many years. In fact, he even Audi actually put him through design school, one of his design schools. So he had a great relationship with Audi, and as you know, the A4 and the TT are two really iconic vehicles from Audi, and he was a designer or the head designer on one of those, and he was also responsible for the new Beetle. So even though it's not necessarily like, oh my god, the new Beetle, whoopee, that was a pretty big deal for the Volkswagen Group. So this guy knows what he's doing. He's also responsible for, when you see the tiger nose design, which is what you see on all the new Kias, where it kind of has that like indent in the middle right there. Kind of looks like a tiger's nose, I guess, but he's responsible for that. Anyway, Kia brought him over, and he's their chief design officer. So basically he handles designing the whole thing. And they said, you know what, we want to do something special. What do you want to do? And he had wanted to do a Grand Touring, or a GT car for a long time, and so they said, all right, cool, do it, make it look gorgeous, make it awesome. And if you haven't seen the Stinger yet, you owe it to yourself to check it out. It is gorgeous, and I'm a big fan of the way it looks. Let me actually pull up something here, see if I can't get you guys to see some of the pictures of this thing, because it really is just a stunning car. Here we go, let's do this. So that's the Kia Stinger right there. It's crazy pretty. It has, this is just on Kia's website. I think it's a really, honestly, a beautiful looking car. You know, it has some of the things that I did really like about it. I actually really like all the scoops that it has. I like the GT design where it kind of flows back to the trunk. You can sort of see that in, let's see if I can get this out of the way here. I'll just close that. But you can sort of see that it slopes all the way back. And a lot of people have said that it kind of looks like a Panamera, which I find hilarious to hear that a Kia looks like a Porsche. But yeah, there we go. That's a good shot. So what you can see is, right, you got this big sloping back area. And this is not a trunk, actually. It's a hatchback. So these seats actually fold down. They're 60-40 split seats. They fold down, and then you have a ton of space in the back. You have way more space than I ever would have thought possible. So definitely a fan of that. What I did notice was that you have not only tons of room, but because you have all that room, and those seats fold down, there actually is, like, you know, so Ross Perkins, who's a friend of mine, goes camping with his car, and I'm like, dude, you could literally lay out. Like, if I fold those seats down, I can actually lay down, and I'm 6'4". It's crazy how much room there is in this car. So think of it kind of like a 5 Series BMW, right? That's kind of the size. It's not like massive. It's not like one of those huge cars that has, you know, a limo or like a folding front seat, like the new Lexus LS, the launch that I was on recently in San Francisco. But you've got a ton of room back there. It's really comfortable for, honestly, for 4. They say 5 full-size adults. I think that's pushing it. Could you do it? Yeah. You wouldn't want to do it for a long time. You could do 4 adults comfortably for a road trip. Genuinely, you could pull that off. It's pretty impressive. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. And I've got some stats here that I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. But for now, what I want to talk about, what I want to mention really is just the overall performance of the thing. It's ridiculous. All right. So before we even get started on that, one of the things that I find hilarious is how everybody seems to think, oh my god, it's so expensive, right? Well, first of all, like I said, they haven't released the official pricing. But they did say that the base model, which is a 2-liter turbo, I think it's 265 horsepower, is going to start at around $32,000. That's ridiculous. There's not a single vehicle like this that you can get that starts at $32,000. It's crazy. Now, admittedly, like, yeah, that's the smaller engine, and it's not going to be crazy fast, and it doesn't have the 4.7 seconds to 60, but it's still, that's a $32,000 car with a lot of options. Then you get up to the GT car, which is the 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6, and it makes 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. It is properly quick. It's actually a quick little car. I wouldn't call it fast. Maybe that's just because I'm used to having cars that are actually fast, you know, that are designed for that. But this thing is so much more than that. It accelerates really well. In fact, it out accelerates all kinds of stuff. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But one of the things that blew me away was you have a car that accelerates super well, better than pretty much anything that it would ever compete against. And not only that, but it's super comfortable, it's well balanced, it handles well, it looks really good. I really like the looks of it. I think most people do, and it's reasonably affordable. All right, so now let me back that up, because a lot of people say, oh my god, you know, what is the GT going to cost? Well, they're saying that they're trying to keep the GT, which is the twin turbo V6, they want to keep the GT under $50,000. Now, that was from, I don't know if I'm supposed to announce that or not, because I don't think that's official, but that was from someone pretty high up in Kia. That being said, I'm sure that you'll be able to add more options and get it above $50,000, but just for convenience's sake, I know that there's the GT1 package and then the GT2 package. And unfortunately, I don't have all the information in front of me, but GT1 is basically going to be the upgrade to the 3.3-liter V6. It's got the 8-speed transmission. It is not a dual clutch. That's one of the areas where they save a little money there, but quite frankly, it's still a very solid transmission. You know, you get the nicer interior, you get the, I think, dual zone climate control, the heated and cooled front seats, and then GT2 brings in a bunch of other things, like they have pretty much everything you'd expect to see in a really nice Audi or BMW. You have the seats, like the air bolster seats or whatever with the air bladders in them, so that you can, you know, have really good comfort and, you know, change things around, whatever. They have all kinds of stuff that comes into that, including like a heated steering wheel and, you know, shenanigans that personally I don't really care about, but that make this a genuinely solid choice for this type of car. So all of that, let's figure that everything all in, the base GT starts supposedly, from what I've seen and heard, again, it's not official, but from what I've seen and heard, it starts at about 49. So I don't have 49 grand to go buy a car, all right? I have a feeling most of you guys aren't really in the market for one of these either. Some of you may be, and that's awesome for you, but I'm not looking to buy one of these things. But I do want to stand up for it because I do think it's an incredible little car. So 49 grand, and then as you add the GT2 package and probably add some other options, let's just assume that you could probably safely get it up to like 55. I think that's reasonable. So what I'm going to do is operate off of a fully loaded vehicle with all the options, and I'm going to try to match the other vehicles that I have seen in that same price range, and really see if I can't make it make sense as to why this is an affordable vehicle. So for most of you saying like, yeah, $50,000, $55,000, that's a lot of fucking money. Yeah, that is a lot of fucking money. But that's not necessarily the point, right? We're talking about people that are interested in leasing or buying a vehicle of this caliber to begin with. So it's not necessarily targeted at you and I, right? This is not, as even though it will drift, it's not a drift car. You know, it's not something that you would buy like just for kicks and giggles. But for those of you that like the rallies that I do, like the Rally North America road rallies, this would be an awesome little rally car. They also haven't released mileage numbers yet, but they're expecting it to get high 20s, low 30s on the highway. I mean, that's absurd out of a car that makes almost 400 horsepower. That's crazy to me. So, not only that, they, I mentioned they brought over Peter Schreier, who designed the thing. Well, they brought over him, and then he designed this beautiful car, which actually stayed fairly close to the concept that they released, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, whenever that was. And then to make it all work, get this, they brought over a guy named Albert Bierman. And if you don't know Albert Bierman, Albert was the former VP of BMW M. All right, so all the awesome BMWs that you and I love, like the M3s, the M4 now, the M5s, all of those cars, he had a huge hand in. So, for example, just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that this guy has developed, he developed the E46 M3. He was the head developer of the E46 M3, which is arguably, in my opinion, one of the most well-balanced, best M3s ever made. Then he also worked on the E39 M5, which is a fantastic car. If you haven't seen the BMW films with Clive Owen, check those out. Those were like the original viral videos, and they're badass. And there's an E39 M5 in the one that Ang Lee did. There's an the E30 M3, like the original, the cherry, the amazing E30 M3 was one of the projects that Albert Bierman worked on. And Kia brought him to work on the Kia Stinger and to make the Stinger drive the way that they wanted it to drive, to make it drive well and handle well and be comfortable and do all the things that it needed to do. So they literally got the cream of the crop. They got Peter Schreier and Albert Bierman, and these two guys came to Kia and made this car happen. So you have incredible knowledge and incredible experience behind this car, right? Now, if that's not enough to sell you, not only that, they had these two amazing guys developing it, but they also decided they wanted to make it affordable, right? Here's why I think Kia is amazing. There's so many reasons. It's just my respect for Kia Motors has soared over the last week at SEMA. I'll be completely honest with you, I never really cared about Kia at all. I never really paid attention to them. I kind of paid attention when they did the new Optima launch and tried to make it like this big rebranding thing, but I honestly just didn't really care, you know. It was Kia. Most of the Kias I've ever driven were rental cars, right? They're usually nothing special. They were just kind of like cheap, decent cars to get you from A to B. I never really got excited about them. I never thought they were bad cars, but I just didn't care, right? So they know that. But they also want to address that. They also realize that that can be a weakness, and they can use it as a strength. So, for example, when you think about Kia, what do you think about? For me, I think rental car. I think practical, cheap, probably maybe reasonably reliable. Maybe not as reliable as a Toyota, but, you know, it's going to be all right. It's probably fine, you know, whatever. Like, that's about where I stop thinking about it. I just don't care. But if you think about BMW, what do you think about? You think it's going to drive really well, it's going to be comfortable, and, you know, the ultimate driving machine. It's going to be well balanced, and it's probably going to be expensive, and it's probably going to be expensive to maintain. What do you think about when you think Audi? You think probably going to handle pretty well, probably going to be four-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, I guess, technically, depending on which one you have. It's, you know, Quattro! You're going to have comfortable interior. It's gonna feel nice. It's gonna feel quality. You're gonna pay for it, and it's probably gonna be expensive to maintain. Same thing with Porsche, right? It's gonna be really nice inside. It's probably gonna be fast, or at least nimble and fun to drive. It's gonna be expensive, and it's probably gonna be expensive to maintain, right? Do you see a theme here? The point being that most of these companies already have an image. They already have to deliver a certain product to their customers. They've kind of like put themselves in a niche, right? Because when I think of Jeep, I don't think of luxury and comfort, right? I think of off-road capability and a bunch of people that drive their Jeeps on the road, their Rubicons on the road that never actually, you know, leave the pavement. But that's a whole other story. Point being, like, each brand kind of has their own demo, right? Their own demographic, the type of person that drives it. So for me, when I'm watching this, or when I'm seeing this, I think Kia, and I'm like, I don't really know. It's just kind of a cheap, affordable family car, you know, nothing special. Well, they knew that, and so instead of saying, well, that's what we are, they have essentially come in from out of left field and brought a legitimately great car. It is honestly a great car. Having driven it all week, it really is an impressive car. They came in and basically said, well, we can kind of do whatever we want. Like, people don't really have any expectations for us. Like, no one really cares about Kia. The people that have them like them, you know, but I mean, what do I think of when I think of Kia? I think the soul and hamsters, you know, like I just never paid attention. So they knew that, and they said, well, we're just gonna, you know, do whatever we want to do. We're gonna do something really, really good and surprise people, because we can, you know, we have the ability to surprise people. So you'll notice in all their marketing, they say the word surprise a lot. Like, next time you see a Kia commercial, you'll probably see the word surprise, because it's like, that's like their whole slogan, right? So they're trying to kind of surprise people and show them that, you know, Korea can actually make a legitimately impressive car. And they did. So they delivered the Stinger, right? Now, everybody goes, oh, it's so expensive, right? You know, anything that expensive should be good. I would agree with you, actually. I think anything for $55,000, again, sticking with that number, $55,000 fully loaded, better be a fucking awesome car. But by the same token, everyone thinks that's so expensive. It's really not. So just for kicks and giggles, let's do this. I'm going to pull up the screen here, and I'm going to try and show you guys some of the other prices that we have. And while I'm doing that, while I'm getting that ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys about the warranties, right? Now, Kia has arguably the best, if not one of, if not the best warranties in the business. And what cracks me up is that they have a way better warranty, literally double the warranty of any of the German manufacturers that they would technically compete with. That's a whole other side topic, by the way. They don't care about who they compete with. They just wanted to make a good car, so they listened to their customers and they listened to the people that were involved and said, what do you guys want? And then they built that car. Every other car company I've ever worked with has always focused on, like, well, it competes with this and it competes with this, and, you know, so we wanted to be better than those, and this is where it's better, and this is where it's better, and blah, 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 blah. I didn't hear that once from Kia. I didn't hear a single thing about their competitors and why they tried to be better than them. I just heard about how good the car is. You know, they talked about developing it on the Nürburgring, right? Everything's developed on the Nürburgring. But you know, the one thing I didn't hear about was a lap time. Now, it's already a faster car than their competitors, so why wouldn't they say it's faster than so-and-so and this guy and this car and whoever around the Nürburgring? Because they don't give a shit. It's not about how fast it is, it's about how well-rounded it is, right? You want to talk about BMW, the ultimate driving machine? If they actually cared, in my opinion, if they actually cared about being the ultimate driving machine, they'd build the ultimate driving machine instead of trying to build something that competes with everybody else. Like, Kia just didn't care. They developed it on the Nürburgring. It did very well on the Nürburgring, and then they released it. They didn't show off the times. They didn't care. They didn't bring in some fancy, you know, show off hot shoe driver just to prove that it was fast. It is fast, and I'll show that to you. So I'm going to get this set up here. Now, with all of that going on, window capture's going away. With all of that going on, what made me laugh was, again, their warranty, right? So what is Porsche's warranty? Let's start with Porsche because I would just assume that they're probably not going to be the greatest. Now, I went to Porsche's website and I looked up their warranty. Porsche is a very straightforward company, and their website says that Porsche's warranty is 4 years, 50,000 miles. I drive more than that in my sleep, all right? Now, I'm kind of weird because I live in Montana and I'm driving all over the country all the time, but I drive a lot. So to me, that's probably like 1 year. I drive more than 50,000 miles a year, but it's usually something like 80, and it's split between a bunch of different cars. So going off of that, 1 year, 50,000 miles, or 4 years, 50,000 miles, like, all right, it's a warranty. It's not the greatest, but that's their power. That's like the good part of the warranty, by the way, right? So, because there's other times where, you know, you hear like 4 years, 50,000 miles, or 3 years, 36,000 miles, or whatever it is. That is like the powertrain warranty. Their bumper-to-bumper warranty might only be like 12, all right? Now, Porsche didn't specify what theirs was, so I'm just going with the big number, which is 4 years, 50,000 miles. Audi's warranty. Very straightforward. We are Audi. We do very simple warranty. It is 4 years, 50,000 miles. And then you go to BMW, and it's 4 years, 50,000 miles. And it's funny because they're all competing with each other, right? So they basically just match each other, and then we all go like, oh yeah, I guess I can't get a better one anyway, so I'll just go to there, right? So 4 years, 50,000 miles from anything they'd be competing against. Kia's warranty is double that. Actually, it's more than that. Kia's warranty is 10 years, 100,000 miles. That's ridiculous. On a car like this that's supposed to be, you know, driven relatively hard and drive long miles, this is kind of like a road trip, like a Grand Touring car. That's what GT stands for. So it's a Grand Touring or Gran Turismo vehicle. It's going to be driven a lot, and they're willing to say, oh yeah, 10 years, 100,000 miles. Like, we stand behind our shit. That's nuts to me. Like, that's anything else they compete against, that's double the warranty. That's better than double the warranty. So I have to give them a lot of credit for that. They're standing behind it. And maybe the argument could be made that they have to. Maybe they really have to because, you know, Audi and BMW and Porsche kind of have that established, like, we know we're awesome. But I don't know, man. I honestly, I don't ever recall hearing Kia being unreliable. But I have heard articles from, like, Jalopnik that are BMW engines are giant pieces of shit. You know, I've seen things said about BMW and about Porsche and about Audi. I've heard a lot of things said. Like, we all know that basically when you buy, ask anybody that's owned like an S4, like a B5 S4, I guarantee you they've spent at least $1,000 maintaining the thing. Probably almost every time there's an issue. If you take it to a dealership or a shop, you're almost guaranteed to have a comma in the bill every time you take in one of these vehicles, right? So they're awesome cars. It's just that they're more expensive, right? You pay, you get what you pay for. So Kia's kind of going, yeah, but you can pay less and you can still get just as much. And oh yeah, and we'll back it up for twice as long. So that was amazing, right? Now, let's look at the price here because this cracked me up. Let's see, live dashboard. Oh, bummer! I can't seem to get the can't seem to get it to work. All right, well, let's not worry about it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to turn on display capture here. There we go. I'm going to get rid of this guy. All right, here we go. So if I start looking at pricing, all right. Oh, the wife's coming out. Hi, wife.
I had
Come say hi to the people.
What people?
There are people on live stream right now. It's the camera. Come, just, you know, step in. It's okay. You don't have to, like...
I haven't even washed my face.
Oh, no, me neither. I haven't even shaved in, like, a week.
What is this? Is this Facebook?
This is live stream. So I'm on YouTube right now, and people are seeing what I'm doing, right? So we're live. It's a thing, yo. So anyway, this is what I'm doing, right? I'm going through, yeah, I might have just shown off something I shouldn't have. I don't know. Anyway, as we're going through this, first of all, the prices we said on the Kia is about 55 grand, right? All fully loaded with everything. Okay, now if we go to Porsche and we look at their base model, here's their technical specs, right? We'll get into that in a second, but the base Panamera starts at 85 grand. That's $30,000 more than the Kia, all right? Now, I admit it, it's a Porsche. It's probably, I know they're really nice cars. You know what you're getting, but 30 grand more, all right? And that's for the base one. Like it goes up from there. You can obviously spend more than that, okay? But if we look at the base one and we say, all right, it's 330 horsepower and goes 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. That's 5.2 with Sport Chrono, whatever the hell that is. So let's call it 5.2. That's half a second slower than the Kia, and that's 35 horsepower less than the Kia. For $30,000 more. Like, those seats better be made out of, like, dollar bills just to be able to make up that difference. It's unreal, right? So, top track speed, they're saying, is 164 miles an hour. The Kia's, as near as makes no difference, 167. And they're also saying that their city and highway are 21 and 28. Kia is, they haven't officially released, though, but again, they're expecting high 20s, low 30s on the highway. So, probably not that big of a difference, although you could say that the Kia will likely be at least 28, so it's going to be at least as good, all right? Now, let's move on. Again, $30,000 more for a Panamera for essentially very similar specs, all right? Now, what's the biggest thing you get out of that? It's a Porsche. Mein Porsche. It's, you know, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Porsche drivers, but I do love Porsches. They do make really good cars. Like, you know it's going to be fun to drive. It's going to be a good car no matter what. So, and if you're a Porsche guy, I'm not picking on you. It's just, you know, I've had my experiences. So, let's go over to the A7, all right? A7, simple thing. You can see they're very similar. They have kind of that sweeping, that Gran Turismo design, right? Kind of goes all the way back. So if we're looking at that, now we can see that we're looking at the Premium Plus or the Prestige. Let's go with the lower expensive one. That's $69,000. It's roughly $70,000. And then if you build one, I guarantee you to get all the same thing, it's probably going to be a little more than that. But let's keep it on the low end. Let's call it $70,000. It's $15,000 more than the Kia. It's a 6-cylinder engine. It has 340 horsepower, so 25 less than the Kia. It has 325 pound-feet of torque. The Kia has 376, so that's 51 more pound-feet of torque. The Kia has 51 more pound-feet of torque and 25 more horsepower, and its top speed is 37 miles an hour higher. And again, the A7, just like the Porsche, 5.2 seconds to 60. Where was that? There we go, 5.2 seconds. The Audi, 5.2 seconds to 60. The Kia, 4.7. It's half a second quicker to 60. It's got significantly better fuel mileage. That's combined, though, so maybe I shouldn't say significantly. But combined is 23. I think the Kia will likely be mid to high 20s combined. That's my estimate. But let's not even use that as a comparison because we don't know those numbers. But 37 mile an hour higher top speed, 50 more pounds of torque, and 25 more horsepower, and it goes 0 to 60 half a second faster for $15,000 less. All right, hold on. Let's move on. Let's go check out the A5 Sportback. All right, now the A5 Sportback, same thing. This is the Audi. It's a little bit smaller. I think this might honestly be a slightly more fair comparison to size-wise to the Kia Stinger. But let's take a look at it. The only available engine is a 2-liter 252 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque. It is a dual overhead cam, 4-cylinder engine with Audi valve lift system. I'm pretty sure every company has their own valve lift system, but anyway, they have a 4-cylinder engine, all right? So it makes 252 horsepower. That's over 100 less than the Kia. 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds, which is literally a second slower than the Stinger. And it's probably about the same mile per gallon rating that the Kia is going to get. Maybe a hair better. We don't know yet. That's kind of, you know, that's up in the air, I suppose. But relatively similar performance mileage-wise, most likely, but significantly diminished performance as far as power and acceleration goes. Like, not even a comparison.
Hey, CJ.
Yes, what's up, wife?
Did you tell them that you're not getting paid and this is an unbiased opinion?
No, but I can.
I
By the way, I'm not getting paid by Kia for this. This is just my honest opinion. I feel like with 121 followers or whatever, 120 some subscribers, that's a given, but...
It sounds very, you know, support Kia.
It is, man. I'm blown away by them.
I know. I just want to make sure that...
I'm not getting paid by Kia. I'm an independent contractor when I work, so essentially the way that my job works is I go and I get hired by an ad agency or some sort of agency that hosts these driving events for, in this case, Kia, right, for the manufacturer. So I never actually get paid by Kia. I never, like, obviously they hosted the event and that ended up putting money in my pocket, but they never paid me, and it wouldn't affect my performance to say that it was a piece of shit, which it's definitely not. The Stinger's fucking awesome. My biggest complaint with it, since we're on this note, my wife got me all spun around.
Sorry.
That's all right. Since we're on this note, my biggest complaint with it is that it understeers quite a bit. But I am reluctant to say that that's really what the car is going to be like, because at this particular event, it happened last minute. I guess this whole event for SEMA came together in 3 weeks, which is crazy. And so to get all the tires they needed for the drifting portion of it, they had to go with a separate company. Now, Michelin Pilot Sports are the tire that come on the car, which, as most of us know, are very good tires. That's not what was on the car when we did the autocross or when we did the drifting. So it's hard for me to say that it's gonna understeer like it did at the autocross course when it has Michelin Pilot Sports on it, because I didn't get to drive it. I drove like 2 laps with a Michelin car, and that was it. I drove probably 200 with the other tires on them. I don't know if I should say the other tire, because I don't want to, like... I'm not going to tell you what the other tire was, but suffice it to say it was a drifting tire company. Yeah, so you can probably figure out which one of the ones it was from there. But it wasn't one of the big brands like Michelin or BF Goodrich or Bridgestone. Or it wasn't one of those major brands. It was one of the drift guys. So anyway, it had some pretty solid understeer. I think if you put this Pilot Sports back on it, I think it would have been improved dramatically. And I also think that because it has a 255 tire in the rear and a 225 up front, it's clearly set up to understeer, which is what most manufacturers are doing now. And the reason they do that is very simple. If you lose control of the car and you understeer and you go off the road into that telephone pole head on, you've got crumple zones, you've got airbags, you've got the big engine block, you've got all that material between you and something that you hit. So understeering into something, even though understeer sucks and terminal understeer is like the worst thing in the world, it's better to have an accident that way than hitting it this way and hitting it, with just the door. So I understand why they do that, because oversteer can cause the side accidents, right? So I get it, but it's designed to do that, and that drives me nuts. But that's not just the Stinger. So I'd like to see maybe a 235 or even a 245 under the front tire, or under the front wheels. I think that would make a significant improvement in eliminating some of the understeer that the car seems to have. But keeping in mind, it understeers about as much as you would expect like a new Civic to understeer. Like, every car will do it, but it's a big car. There's a lot of room in it, and it does not understeer like a big car that it is. It handles really well. So anyway, back to Audi. So again, significantly more expensive for this one. The premium Sportback starts at 42, and what I started doing was putting things together, and when I did a build of one, which I was trying to get all the same packages together. I don't know if I must have dropped out of it. But so trying to get all the same things, side assist, the LED headlights, keyless start stop, which only, yeah, heated front seats, there's that one. Parking system, yada yada blah blah. So let's do the separated one. Cool, premium. I think it was premium plus, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so you start adding this one up, and keep in mind that this car is already, this is much more comparable to like the base model Stinger, which would start at $32,000. So this car is already $10,000 more expensive. But even if we're comparing it to the big full-out GT, start putting things together, right? We want navigation because it has that, the cold weather, the heated steering wheel, the ventilated front seats, the S-line, what is that? Arm, wheels. Oh yeah, okay, so the sport suspension, which that has. Oh, it requires us to remove that? Okay, I don't know if that really matters that much. But alright, so let's go with the 19-inch wheels, because that's what the Kia has. Why, are you kidding me right now? Alright, fine, forget that. So we can't add those for some reason. Rear side airbags, because we have those. And where does that put us? Price as built, $50,350. Alright? So, that might be, and by the way, that doesn't have 19-inch tires and several of the other things that I was trying to add in there. But point being, if we're talking about a car that's essentially got all the same stuff in it, but that has the same amount of power from the Kia, that's literally almost $20,000 more. Now, if we're still using the top-of-the-line Kia, that's at $55,000, okay, yeah, that's a little bit less expensive. But are you willing to give up, what was it, 100 horsepower? And a whole second, 0 to 60? I mean, that's not even like a fair comparison. So I don't understand why people are so bent out of shape about this. So let's move on. Let's see BMW, right? Price as built. I've already gone through and built these ones. So you can see this is the 340i Gran Turismo. This should be able to, maybe that doesn't rotate. But anyway, base price starts at a little over $50,000. But then you add all the things that the Kia would already come with, and suddenly you're looking at $57,000, right? So it's still more expensive even than a top-of-the-line, totally decked-out Kia, and that doesn't even have everything that I went through. It has most of it, so it's close. So there's 58.5. And by the way, the BMWs were the ones that were the closest. So the 540i sedan is not a Gran Turismo, but I picked it because it's similar size. So the 3 Series is definitely smaller and still more expensive than the Kia, right? Legroom is significant. Just look at the profile of it versus the 340. I mean, there's so much more rear legroom in the Kia. It's not even funny. And then the 540i, which I think is size-wise the most similar, 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 with rear-wheel drive, base MSRP 57. It's already more expensive. Then you add all the extra stuff that the Kia has at the top level. It's $73,000. So now we're talking about $18,000 more. Right, and then of course you have the 640i, which I reluctantly included. I wouldn't say it's actually a great comparison because it is. If we're fair about this, it is a slightly bigger car, but it's got a few extra things that that the Kia doesn't have. So for example, like this dynamic handling package, the Kia has adjustable suspension, but it's not magnetic like I believe the BMW is. So that's a pretty large increase in price, but to get all the other stuff. So even if we just say it's the base model and then not include all the extra stuff, it's 70 grand. That's still $15,000 more than a fully decked out Kia, right? So I'm going to come back to our image here. So what I'm getting at here, oh, I can see Danny's shadow over there. So what I'm getting at here is that it's genuinely an impressive car, and for the money, it's honestly a better buy, a significantly better buy than just about anything that it competes with. It's pushing $30,000 less than the Panamera, than the Porsche, right? It's significantly less than the Audi. It's faster than the Audis. It's faster than the BMWs. It's even faster than the Porsche. So here it is. Let's go back to this. I want to show you this one last thing here. Display capture 2, back to this. So if we look at our horsepower, it's got more power than the A7 Sportback. It's more power than the Grand Coupe. It's literally significantly more power than all of these other options. The GS350, which frankly, like, I don't know if I'd really even want to compare it to a Lexus, because I think Lexus is just, I respect Toyota and Lexus a lot. They do a lot of really neat things. They're a great company, but their stuff is so focused on... I really think they're focused on a demographic that I just don't care about. The car's steering, usually for the Lexuses, is just totally numb. It's too powerful. You don't really feel much. It's not a very engaging car to drive. But let's look at the torque. 376 pound-feet, right? Now we're talking about 46 more pound-feet of torque than either BMW, the 640 or the 440, because I'm assuming they're the same engine. Significantly more than the Sportback, the A7 Sportback, and the A5 Sportback, like way more. It's almost 100, in fact it is, it's 103 more pound-feet of torque than the A5 Sportback. And 0 to 60. It's faster than the 440i, the A7, the 640i, the GS350, and the A5 Sportback. And as we found out over here, it's faster than a base-level Panamera. So there's really nothing that... Hang on. There's really nothing that seems to outperform this car in its bracket, and it's genuinely, like, for the most part, $10,000 to $20,000 less than most things that would compete with it. There was that one exception of the BMW that was like only, I think, $3,500 more expensive, but also I wasn't able to include certain things without including a whole package, so it's probably going to be more like $5,000 more expensive. But point being, only one car was really even remotely in that range, and that's the 3 Series, which has way less room in the back. So it's hard to even really compare those two. So I gotta be honest, man, like I said, I was blown away. And the last thing I want to talk about, and I told Danny this last night. Look at her painting. My wife did that. It's awesome. The last thing I want to talk about is just Kia as a company. I was blown away. All of these events that I work, of course these companies talk about themselves. They want us to believe in their products, and they want us to believe in what they do and how they run their company and whatnot. But I've been doing this... How long have I been doing this? Like 6 years? 7 years?
Yeah.
6 or 7 years, something like that?
Long time.
I've never had a car company come to me or come to us, the drivers, like the people that are driving these cars, you know, or sitting in the right seat, keeping people from crashing. Like they call us pro drivers, right? But not once have I ever had a company approach us and say, "What do you think about the vehicle? You guys do this for a living. You do this with a bunch of other cars. You know, what do you think?" I've never had any of them do that. And after this event, Kia sent all of us, they told us at the event that, you know, thank you, they're very thankful, like, thank you guys for coming, we appreciate all the work that you've done to make this event happen. Would you guys mind filling out a brief survey and giving us some feedback, because we feel we would be missing out on a huge opportunity to have 8 professional drivers spend a week in our cars and not take advantage of that, especially people that have experience driving all kinds of stuff. So they sent me an email, or they sent me a link, and I took this survey. It took me about 15-20 minutes. I filled it out. I wrote my honest opinion, and whether or not they use it, I have no idea. But I've never had a company reach out to me and say, hey, we actually would like to know what you think. That blew my mind. And so I got to tell you, because of that, because of the way they don't really pay attention to their competitors, the way they understand their brand and the way that people look at them, and they say that, you know what, we know we don't have a real strong brand image, but we're going to work on that. So the fact that they do that, I mean, that's awesome. They're owning it. They want to be better. And honestly, that's the biggest thing that I look for in a company. If you're willing to put in the time and be honest about yourself and be better, I think that's really all that matters. So I have to give it to them. I think they make the best car in this particular segment, which admittedly, like, I could care less about grand touring cars, but they make the best one. They make the least expensive one, and they actually care. They really do. I mean, it was genuinely impressive. The CEO of Kia Motors flew over from Korea to come to this event. That's how important this car is to them. I've never once had a CEO of Toyota or Lexus, or, you know, what other cars have I done? I've done a lot of Toyota and Lexus stuff. I did Nissan stuff. A lot of tire company stuff, you know, Jeep, whatever it is. I've never had the CEO of that company, of the product that we were launching, show up for the event. Like, that was unreal. So just seeing how much they actually care was mind-numbing. And I guess part of this was really just for me to kind of explore and play with YouTube Live and see how it works out. You know, see what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Like this thing if you enjoyed it. You know, tell me what you think of the Stinger. Tell me if you think it's a good car, or if you are still, you know, waiting to see what the market says about it, or, you know, tell me what you think down below. Would love to continue the dialogue with you guys, but I wanted to play with this a little bit, but I also wanted to back up and defend the Stinger a little bit, because I saw a bunch of people, like, on my Instagram post saying how expensive the car was, and I'm going, yeah, it's a good chunk of change, no doubt. $50,000 to $55,000 is a good chunk of money. I wouldn't argue with you on that, but I find it kind of silly to say that this is like, oh my god, it's so much money and that's so expensive, when in reality it's significantly less expensive than anything else in that segment, than anything else that people would be buying. So if Kia keeps doing these sort of things and builds cars this way and builds genuinely good cars and cares about it and wants to build something that their customers want, not just something that's slightly faster than the competitor or gets better mileage or is better in on some piece of paper, if they keep building cars that feel fun and deliver for an affordable amount, for less than the competition, they're gonna kill it, man. I'm calling it right now. As long as Kia can keep this momentum and do some neat things, I think they're going to be a major player in the next 5 or 10 years. So 10 years from now, when I link back to this video, I'll be like, I was there for that launch. I was there for that product launch. So anyways, I hope you guys have an awesome day. I'm going to jet out of here. I just wanted to talk about the Stinger a little bit. Thanks for putting up with my BS. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We got snow here in Montana. It's gorgeous. The sun is out. The dog is happy. Life is awesome. And I will talk to you guys next time. You know, yeah, share it out. Let me know if you think I was right. Let me know if you think I was wrong. Make fun of me. I don't care. Let's have some fun with it. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Adios! Now I gotta figure out how to shut this off.